Hi, this is Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. If you live or work in Manhattan, you can apply to join one of Manhattan's 12 local community boards. Community board members represent the needs of the people, businesses, and organizations in their neighborhoods. They're essential to shaping the character of Manhattan. If you'd like to apply or know someone who might, visit manhattanbp.nyc.gov/communityboards. The deadline is February 3rd, 2017.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Cecile Noel, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office to Combat Domestic Violence. If you're a survivor of domestic violence, sex trafficking, or elder abuse, the Mayor's Office is here to help. Walk into one of the city's family justice centers, located in every borough, to receive free and confidential help regardless of income, language, immigration status, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Call 311 and ask for the nearest Family Justice Center or visit nyc.gov/domestic violence.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Every New Yorker deserves to live in a safe and decent home. But too often, residents are forced to live in dangerous conditions and face illegal harassment by their landlords. If you are having problems with your home or your landlord, please call my office at 212-669-7250 or email us at gethelp@pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. In this city, we look out for each other. We're our sisters and brothers keepers. During these cold weather months, I ask that you reach out to your elderly neighbors and friends. Remaining active, engaged, and socially connected improves one's quality of life. It also reduces the risk of chronic disease, dementia, and premature death. If you're lonely, anxious, or depressed, and you want help, call 1-888-NYC-WELL or 911 in an emergency.
Hi, I'm New York City Controller Scott Stringer. An honest day's work deserves an honest day's pay. And if you work for a city construction or building services contractor, you should be getting paid a prevailing wage. If you think you've been underpaid, call my Bureau of Labor Law at 212-669-4443. All calls will be kept confidential, and we'll fight to get you the money you're owed, regardless of immigration status.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hello, this is Michael Carey, Executive Director of Citywide Event Coordination and Management. At CECM, we help oversee the permitting of events on your streets. To find out more about the process and deadline for street activities and pedestrian plazas, please visit nyc.gov/CECM. We look forward to making your event safe and enjoyable for the entire community.
Hi, I'm Roy Mogolansky, Executive Director for the City of New York Office of Payroll Administration. Did you know city employees can save money on commuting expenses to work? When you sign up for the city's WageWorks Commuter Benefits Program, the funds for your commuting costs are set aside from your paycheck before taxes are taken out. So you pay less in taxes, up to $1,200 a year if you take mass transit, and up to $2,400 a year if parking is part of your commute. Visit getwageworks.com/NYC.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm Carmelyn P. Malalis, Commissioner and Chair of the New York City Commission on Human Rights. New York City's greatest strength is its diversity. The New York City Commission on Human Rights enforces one of the strongest human rights laws in the country and fights every day to protect all New Yorkers from discrimination and harassment. No one in New York City should feel unsafe or threatened because of their background, belief, or identity. If you feel you've experienced discrimination, please call the Commission on Human Rights at 718-722-3131.
This is New York City Cultural Affairs Commissioner Tom Finkelpearl. We're in the process of developing the city's first ever comprehensive cultural plan called Create NYC. This plan has the potential to increase access to arts and culture for all New Yorkers. But we need to hear from you. We believe that performers, students, painters, gardeners, writers, cooks, and so many more together create the soul of our city. How does your community create NYC? Visit createnyc.org to learn more and participate in the process.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
This is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. There are over 1 million New York City public school students, and many of these children face a wide range of occupational, speech, developmental, and physical disabilities. Every child deserves an equal and fair education. And if you think your child needs a specialized learning plan or isn't getting the resources he or she needs, please contact your local school, the Department of Education Special Education Hotline at 718-935-2007, or please call 311.
This is New York City Controller Scott Stringer. Bank accounts are critical to help you save and grow your hard-earned money. But hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers don't have a basic checking account. That's why my office created Take It to the Bank, an online tool to compare low-cost accounts and find the one that best meets your needs. Our website is available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Check it out at takeittothebank.nyc.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hi, I'm Greg Bishop, Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Here at SBS, we open doors to opportunity for all New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs. Our department is focused on creating stronger businesses, connecting New Yorkers with good jobs, and fostering thriving neighborhoods. So, if you are looking for a job, want to start or grow your business, or hope to strengthen a commercial corridor, please visit www.nyc.gov/SBS or call 311 for more information.
Hi, this is Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. If you live or work in Manhattan, you can apply to join one of Manhattan's 12 local community boards. Community board members represent the needs of the people, businesses, and organizations in their neighborhoods. They're essential to shaping the character of Manhattan. If you'd like to apply or know someone who might, visit manhattanbp.nyc.gov/communityboards. The deadline is February 3rd, 2017.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Cecile Noel, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office to Combat Domestic Violence. If you're a survivor of domestic violence, sex trafficking, or elder abuse, the Mayor's Office is here to help. Walk into one of the city's family justice centers, located in every borough, to receive free and confidential help regardless of income, language, immigration status, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Call 311 and ask for the nearest Family Justice Center or visit nyc.gov/domestic violence.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Every New Yorker deserves to live in a safe and decent home. But too often, residents are forced to live in dangerous conditions and face illegal harassment by their landlords. If you are having problems with your home or your landlord, please call my office at 212-669-7250 or email us at gethelp@pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. In this city, we look out for each other. We're our sisters and brothers keepers. During these cold weather months, I ask that you reach out to your elderly neighbors and friends. Remaining active, engaged, and socially connected improves one's quality of life. It also reduces the risk of chronic disease, dementia, and premature death. If you're lonely, anxious, or depressed, and you want help, call 1-888-NYC-WELL or 911 in an emergency.
Hi, I'm New York City Controller Scott Stringer. An honest day's work deserves an honest day's pay. And if you work for a city construction or building services contractor, you should be getting paid a prevailing wage. If you think you've been underpaid, call my Bureau of Labor Law at 212-669-4443. All calls will be kept confidential, and we'll fight to get you the money you're owed, regardless of immigration status.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hello, this is Michael Carey, Executive Director of Citywide Event Coordination and Management. At CECM, we help oversee the permitting of events on your streets. To find out more about the process and deadline for street activities and pedestrian plazas, please visit nyc.gov/CECM. We look forward to making your event safe and enjoyable for the entire community.
Hi, I'm Roy Mogolansky, Executive Director for the City of New York Office of Payroll Administration. Did you know city employees can save money on commuting expenses to work? When you sign up for the city's WageWorks Commuter Benefits Program, the funds for your commuting costs are set aside from your paycheck before taxes are taken out, so you pay less in taxes, up to $1,200 a year if you take mass transit, and up to $2,400 a year if parking is part of your commute. Visit getwageworks.com/NYC.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
Hi, I'm Carmelyn P. Malalis, Commissioner and Chair of the New York City Commission on Human Rights. New York City's greatest strength is its diversity. The New York City Commission on Human Rights enforces one of the strongest human rights laws in the country and fights every day to protect all New Yorkers from discrimination and harassment. No one in New York City should feel unsafe or threatened because of their background, belief, or identity. If you feel you've experienced discrimination, please call the Commission on Human Rights at 718-722-3131.
This is New York City Cultural Affairs Commissioner Tom Finkelpearl. We're in the process of developing the city's first ever comprehensive cultural plan called Create NYC. This plan has the potential to increase access to arts and culture for all New Yorkers. But we need to hear from you. We believe that performers, students, painters, gardeners, writers, cooks, and so many more together create the soul of our city. How does your community create NYC? Visit createnyc.org to learn more and participate in the process.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
This is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. There are over 1 million New York City public school students, and many of these children face a wide range of occupational, speech, developmental, and physical disabilities. Every child deserves an equal and fair education. And if you think your child needs a specialized learning plan or isn't getting the resources he or she needs, please contact your local school, the Department of Education Special Education Hotline at 718-935-2007, or please call 311.
This is New York City Controller Scott Stringer. Bank accounts are critical to help you save and grow your hard-earned money. But hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers don't have a basic checking account. That's why my office created Take It to the Bank, an online tool to compare low-cost accounts and find the one that best meets your needs. Our website is available in English, Spanish, and Chinese. Check it out at takeittothebank.nyc.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311.
Hi, I'm Greg Bishop, Commissioner of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Here at SBS, we open doors to opportunity for all New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs. Our department is focused on creating stronger businesses, connecting New Yorkers with good jobs, and fostering thriving neighborhoods. So, if you are looking for a job, want to start or grow your business, or hope to strengthen a commercial corridor, please visit www.nyc.gov/SBS or call 311 for more information.
Hi, this is Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. If you live or work in Manhattan, you can apply to join one of Manhattan's 12 local community boards. Community board members represent the needs of the people, businesses, and organizations in their neighborhoods. They're essential to shaping the character of Manhattan. If you'd like to apply or know someone who might, visit manhattanbp.nyc.gov/community boards. The deadline is February 3rd, 2017.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Cecile Noel, Commissioner of the Mayor's Office to Combat Domestic Violence. If you're a survivor of domestic violence, sex trafficking, or elder abuse, the Mayor's Office is here to help. Walk into one of the city's family justice centers, located in every borough, to receive free and confidential help regardless of income, language, immigration status, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Call 311 and ask for the nearest Family Justice Center or visit nyc.gov/domestic violence.
Hello, this is New York City Public Advocate Letitia James. Every New Yorker deserves to live in a safe and decent home. But too often, residents are forced to live in dangerous conditions and face illegal harassment by their landlords. If you are having problems with your home or your landlord, please call my office at 212-669-7250 or email us at gethelp@pubadvocate.nyc.gov or call 311.
Remember, for more information about New York City government services, dial 311 or visit nyc.gov.
This is Donna Corrado, Commissioner of the New York City Department for the Aging. In this city, we look out for each other. We're our sisters and brothers' keepers. During these cold weather months, I ask that you reach out to your elderly neighbors and friends. Remaining active, engaged, and socially connected improves one's quality of life. It also reduces the risk of chronic disease, dementia, and premature death. If you're lonely, anxious, or depressed, and you want help, call 1-888-NYC-WELL or 911 in an emergency.
Hi, I'm New York City Controller Scott Stringer. An honest day's work deserves an honest day's pay. And if you work for a city construction or building services contractor, you should be getting paid a prevailing wage. If you think you've been underpaid, call my Bureau of Labor Law at 212.
Okay, everybody ready? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is a very good day for New York City. A good day for ensuring the continued safety of the people of this city, the safest big city in America, and also ensuring support for our officers who are doing an outstanding job keeping us safe. I'm here to announce the city has reached an agreement with the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, and it is a fair agreement for our officers and for our taxpayers alike. This settlement is consistent with all of the city labor agreements that have been reached in this round. And upon ratification of this contract, the City of New York will have active labor agreements with over 99% of our workforce. And most importantly, this agreement represents a big step forward for a vision of safety in which police and community are true partners. Trust between our police and our communities is growing for the mutual benefit of all, for the safety of both neighborhood residents and our officers. And that is a mission that we are very dedicated to. We want to build upon it and build upon it rapidly. We know for a fact that crime is at record lows. And you'll hear from Commissioner O'Neill in a moment, and I want to thank him and congratulate him today because all of this is happening against a backdrop of an improved situation in fighting crime. Really is not only record-setting, but something that's gratifying for all the people of this city. And also a reminder of the hard work and the success achieved every single day by our officers. So we know that that is a fact. But we know at the same time, we have to take the vision initiated under the leadership of Commissioner Bratton and built and perfected under the leadership of Commissioner O'Neill. We have to bring that vision to life even more. Neighborhood policing, the underlying strategy of this department, is transformative, but to fully take effect, there's much more work to be done. And that's going to involve all of our officers. This agreement recognizes that neighborhood policing involves fundamental changes to the work of our officers, and that we want to do everything we can to support our officers as that change in paradigm occurs. Our officers already have done an outstanding job in the initial phases of neighborhood policing, and we believe fundamentally that the additional compensation included in this agreement is not only fair, but that it will help us to achieve our goals. It's also important to note that real savings have been achieved in this agreement. There's a lot of back and forth, as in any labor negotiation. This has been going on for years, literally. You'll hear from President Lynch in a moment. I want to say at the outset, he and his team have bargained hard, and there's been long negotiations, again, over many months and years. But one thing that typifies a fair negotiation is when there are contributions made from both sides, where there's a real give and take, and that's what happened here. I also want to announce a further policy announcement that is consistent with today's labor agreement and that is facilitated by today's labor agreement. This gets to the work we need to do in building further trust between police and communities, creating an atmosphere of transparency and accountability for the good of all, for the good of our community residents and our officers alike. So I'm announcing today that by the end of calendar year 2019, all New York City patrol officers, all NYPD members on patrol will be wearing body-worn cameras. So again, emphasizing by the end of 2019, all NYPD patrol officers will be wearing body-worn cameras. As you know, 1,000 cameras are being deployed as we speak to 20 precincts to study the approach and the impact as a part of a pilot program. 5,000 will be deployed by July of 2018, the remainder achieved for our patrol officers by the end of 2019. You're going to hear from President Lynch, from Commissioner O'Neill, and from Commissioner Bob Lynn in just a moment. I also want to thank our first Deputy Mayor, Tony Shorris, and our Director of OMB, Dean Fullahan, and their teams. They have been working throughout this process, again, not only just over months, but over years, to bring us to this day. I thank them and their teams. And two mediators who performed a crucial role in this process. And perhaps our mediators don't get a lot of headlines, but they do extraordinarily important work, and they help sides, even when there's some disagreements, come together and find common ground. I want to thank Kevin Flanagan of the Public Employee Relations Board for his exceptional work, and Marty Scheinman, who's not present with us but played a crucial role as well. Now, just a few more points. This agreement provides certainty for the City of New York that had been elusive previously. This is one of the last elements of our fiscal picture that had to be addressed and resolved. We all know there's a huge uncertainty in Washington, D.C. But with this agreement, upon its ratification, the last great uncertainty in terms of labor relations is resolved, and it'll allow us a much clearer fiscal picture going forward. Again, both sides bargained well, bargained with great energy, tough negotiations, but both sides came forward in a spirit of understanding and made contributions. A couple of points I want to refer to here. The PBA agreed, of course, to the plan I just laid out related to body cameras, and in the process, upon ratification, would be ending the lawsuit related to body cameras. PBA will be working now as part of our city healthcare savings initiative, and will be, upon ratification, dropping a related lawsuit. And upon ratification, there will be a settling of a pending complaint related to the use of naloxone by officers to address overdoses. And then finally will be a new salary schedule for starting hires. The city, in this same spirit of making positive contributions to get to an agreement that works for all, the city has agreed to a pay raise in each year of the contract on par with other uniform unions. And the city has agreed to work jointly with the PPA to support and achieve from the state disability legislation which will provide benefits similar to those for fire, corrections, and sanitation workers now. I'll conclude by saying I firmly believe in the value of collective bargaining. This is an instance where collective bargaining took time, but collective bargaining worked in that it allowed us not only to address the most immediate contractual issues, but to simultaneously address other crucial related issues, many related issues. This was very complex. And I have to say, in the meetings that I was in, the conversations here at City Hall, the complexity, the number of issues that had to be treated was unusual, and that's part of why it took so much time and energy. But the devotion to working through them was ultimately what won the day. Key thing to remember in labor relations, it doesn't matter how far apart the sides are when they begin, it matters where they end up. And this agreement recognizes that we are all in this together. Our taxpayers, our union members, our residents of this city, all of our city agencies, and of course the NYPD in particular, we are all in this together. And today is an example of New Yorkers coming together for common and mutual benefit. A few words in Spanish. Estamos anunciando un acuerdo laboral que es justo para nuestros oficiales de policía y justo para los contribuyentes. Este acuerdo es un gran paso de avance en nuestro plan de seguridad pública. With that, I want to welcome the president of the PBA, Pat Lynch, and affirm that he bargained hard, but bargained in good faith. And I thank him for all the work that went into it. I thank his team as well for all the work that went into getting us to this day. I welcome you to City Hall. Thank you.
You know, as the mayor said, a lot of hard work, long nights went into the negotiations to get this contract, but it pales in comparison to the long nights and hard work that the women and men of the NYPD do on the streets each and every day. What's important about this agreement today is that it shows the uniqueness of being a New York City police officer and recognizes the added responsibility, the scrutiny we're under, the life-saving techniques we're trained in, and it recognizes what we do on the streets of New York, and it's different. And we also are now be able to work on taking care of those that get injured with the disability benefit that they deserve. If a New York City police officer is injured on the job, now they know that they can take care of their families when they go home. A lot of work went into getting here. A lot of folks did it. My staff that was involved in this, my executive board that participated in that, and I appreciate all their hard work that got us here today. Again, we're inside this room because a lot of hard work, a lot of discussions, a lot of long nights. But again, it pales in comparison to what our police officers do each and every day.
Thank you very much. I now want to introduce our police commissioner. Want to commend him as the architect of the vision that, again, is strengthened by today's agreement, our Commissioner Jimmy O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really pleased to hear about this contract settlement. Certainly, no matter what side of the argument people found themselves on, this resolution was long overdue. It weighed heavily on the minds of all of us for a very long time. I'm glad we can put it all behind us now. New York City police officers are by far the best in the business. I say that every day. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I've been a cop for a long time, and I'm so proud of the men and women of the NYPD. What they've accomplished over the decades in terms of crime reductions and what they continue to do every single day. As a police commissioner, my job is to make sure our cops have all the technology, the training, the safety equipment, the backing from this administration they need to go about their daily work safely, efficiently, and effectively. I want to thank our cops for what they're achieving through our neighborhood policing plan. They're forging lasting relationships with old and new friends in every corner of this great city, and they're doing it while they continue to drive down crime. Because after all, this is who we are and this is what we do. We fight crime and we keep people safe. Now with the contract settled, the country's finest police officers continue to do the great work the NYPD has been known for a long time, and devote even more energies to connecting with all of our communities, getting residents and workers all over neighborhoods to share in the responsibility of our collective public safety. So congratulations to everyone involved in this.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And lastly, I want you to hear from a man who gets only a fraction of the credit he deserves. Bob Lynn, I've said this before, but I want to refresh it. He came in the door, beginning of this administration, with literally no city worker under contract and a very bitter dynamic pervading the relationship between our management and our workers. And Bob's job was to repair and heal those wounds. And he has systematically forged agreement after agreement. This takes extraordinary skill and creativity. And that has been in evidence throughout, but I would say objectively, never more so than in this moment. Bob, this is an extraordinary thing that you and your team have achieved. And for the first time in a long, long time, for all intents and purposes, all New York City workers will now be under contract, and that is a wonderful thing for our city. So I congratulate you, Bob Lynn. We welcome your comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say a couple of words. I have been fortunate, and I appreciate so much the mayor giving me the opportunity to participate in New York City's collective bargaining over the last 37 months, going from no workers under contract to virtually all workers under contract. I am very proud of lots of our settlements. There's no contract I'm more proud of than the one that we reached, and I really want to thank you very much, Pat, for all the work that you did and your staff. I just want to make sort of one thought. That I've been around a long time in labor, and I remember in my youth when people would settle after long nights of working around the clock. In our settlement, we reached about 4 o'clock in the morning today, that people would look at the settlement and say, oh, it was a good settlement. It must have been a good settlement because neither side was happy. It struck me back then, and certainly now, I believe, that was completely wrong, that conclusion. A good settlement is when both sides walk away and they feel that they have met important interests and they've solved problems. And this is exactly that type of settlement, where we both felt that we came to the table, had important things to solve, and we did it together. And we did it together in a respectful approach to collective bargaining. And I want to thank the mayor for having brought that concept of what collective bargaining should be like in the public sector. It's respectful, it is fact-based, it is based on solving problems together. And we've done that. And I think that this settlement really is such a wonderful example of parties coming to the table, having differences, and finding solutions to difficult problems. So thank you all.
Thank you, and well done. Okay, we welcome your questions. Yes, Aaron.
Can you describe this as being in line with the pattern that the other uniform unions got? PBA has previously said that they're not willing to accept that pattern of raises. I guess for both of you, did you add anything else to make it more favorable to them? And for Mr. Lynch, what made you willing to accept this at this point?
I'll frame it, and then I'd like Bob to actually put a point on it, because I think he has the best perspective from the city side of how this all fits together. But look, we believe there's been a fair dynamic between the city and labor over these last 4 years. And we think creating consistency was crucial, and we've done that here. Again, it took creative contributions from both sides to get there. But one thing that I've learned, particularly working with Bob and with Tony, is every contract is different for a variety of reasons. Every union has different needs. Every workforce has different needs. And there's always an opportunity to treat a variety of issues both within the contract, and then in a mediation process like this, we were able to also simultaneously address other important issues. And all of that has to be looked at together. So to Bob's previous point, when you look at how many things got addressed and resolved simultaneously, that's why I think this is very fair to all. On the specific question of the labor pattern, because of the way the different contributions were constructed, it is consistent with the rest of our labor settlements. Do you want to speak to that further before Pat?
Yes, I'd just like to say that as you look through our numerous settlements, no two have been the same. They've had different elements in terms of savings, in terms of problems solved, and this is a unique settlement that we reached. It is one that we believe is consistent with our approach with all of the other unions, and that is one that is a consistent approach. But we have solved specific problems, meeting the needs of the PBA, meeting Pat Lynch's demands they brought to the table in a way that also worked for us. So that's how I believe it's consistent with bargaining, and I think that the analysis of the dollars will show that that's correct too.
I think there's a lot of emphasis on whether it's pattern bargaining or not. And quite honestly, I don't really look at what the other unions have settled. They settle for what's good for their organization. I look for what we need as New York City police officers and my members need and will ratify. And this also looks at the unique difference that our job is, a differential for the different things that we do, the neighborhood policing concept. So it works as a whole when you look at the whole package for New York City police officer and gets us on the road to a market rate of pay, which is always our mission and will continue to be.
So I'm sorry, just to follow up fully, was anything added or changed to the offer that had previously been rejected?
What we were able to do is do something different that solves some of our problems, put money into our members' pockets so they can focus on policing rather than paying their bills.
And I'll just add to that before Dave, just add to that, we'll get you all the details, but the point is different savings were found, different contributions were made. Again, both sides offering things to get to a balance point. The whole concept here is striking a balance. You're going to see some expenses that we as a city will cover. You're also going to see savings that are realized. And when you see the whole picture, we feel it's very fair to the taxpayers. But to Pat's point, it addresses longstanding concerns raised on behalf of our officers, and we found a productive way to address them. Dave.
I just mentioned neighborhood policing, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like there's a 2.25 or 2.5 extra for neighborhood policing for those officers who are doing that. Is that correct? And where does this...
I'll let Bob and Dean can talk about the specific. Let me give you the theory to make sure you're getting it clearly. We looked at and we listened to the concerns raised by the union. And it is true that the NYPD is in a deep transformation. We, in our approach to neighborhood policing, are asking officers to learn a new way of doing the work and to do a host of new work as part of their responsibilities. With body cameras, we're clearly asking officers to learn a new way of doing the work and to adjust to technology and level of transparency they have not experienced before. Rather than a long, contentious fight over these issues, we found common ground. We said, look, there's a way that this can work for everyone involved. There's a legitimate concern about compensation that should be attached. There's a legitimate concern from the city about moving all of these initiatives aggressively because we believe they're very positive and productive. So, for example, being able to affirm that we were all on the same page about the rapid expansion of the use of body cameras. Every patrol officer having them by the end of 2019. That was big, substantive progress for this city. When we factored it all together, we believe that the additional compensation made sense, and also, again, the additional savings was going to add up for us in the long run.
Okay, so is it correct then in saying, with the neighborhood policing, with the body camera agreement, with all that, there's an extra 2.25 here for them?
I'm going to have, again, Bob and Dean speak to that.
So focusing on that point specifically, the answer is no, it's not correct. That, for instance, there is a new salary schedule for new hires, which happens to produce savings that are consistent with the cost of that particular benefit. So one has to look at the overall concept, the overall settlement, and see the elements. There are savings, there are costs, and we believe that when you put them all together, you can't look at one specifically. Like you can't just single out, what about neighborhood policing differential? You can't look at that separately. You have to look at the whole totality of the agreement, and the totality of the agreement is one that's consistent with settlements we've reached with other workers.
And let me just add that, as is true with our budget presentations, there's going to be an additional fact sheet provided in about a half hour, and there'll be an opportunity for a follow-up discussion with Bob and Dean on the specific financing, but we'll get those facts out for you.
About the body cameras, are there rules governing whether an officer can turn it off? Will there be punishment for doing so? Who controls the video? And are you guys giving a bump to officers in exchange for wearing the body camera?
Again, let me start on how we're going to get there. This is an affirmation that we all understand this is the shape of things to come. That this is the direction the city is moving in rapidly to have all our patrol officers wear body cameras by the end of 2019. The pilot right now, the first 1,000, is going to help us resolve a number of issues, logistical, technological, questions of confidentiality. You know we're working with a monitor as well. We have to work through those things and come up with a game plan before we expand out to really big numbers. So it's time to do it. I think what this also helps us to do is to have a collegial discussion and a respectful discussion along the way. And we want the feedback from the union. We want to understand what it means for rank and file to get it right, to make it fair to everyone, to figure out what kind of training is needed, et cetera. But clearly, again, you'll see as the fact sheet is produced where we've added compensation, where we found savings. But we fundamentally believe to have an opportunity to speed the paradigm shift in the NYPD to neighborhood policing and to body cameras. This helps us to do it. We think that's good for everyone. We think that's good for everyone in New York City. And to resolve simultaneously a contract that's been outstanding for years, going back well into the previous administration, the disability issue, the naloxone issue, the healthcare savings issue. This, to us, is an extraordinary package. And Bob's right. It's one that everyone can feel was very positive, even if there's things that people fought for and didn't get, or imperfections in terms of the original vision. What we got to in the end achieves so many things simultaneously. We absolutely believe it's in the interest of New York City residents and New York City taxpayers.
So this agreement does not address those rules. You'll be doing it down the road?
Absolutely. It is not a specific side piece of this agreement.
One other thing, sergeants and above, where are they going to be with body cameras?
I'll start, and the commissioner or either commissioner want to add. At this point, the vision related to body cameras is specifically focused on members of the PBA. In the future, there may be discussion of other officers, other ranks being involved. But for the time frame we're talking about, our current plan involves our patrol officers, our PBA members exclusively. Other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, with the contract now settled, will there be any movement on the guidelines announced a year ago that would shift some quality of life offenses? There were 5, I believe, from criminal offenses to civil offenses, and after the executive order last week, which criminalized, put people at risk for deportation for low-level arrests or any interaction with the NYPD at all.
Yeah, I want to, as I talked about this the other day, I'll just do it very quickly. I want to separate those two pieces. We believe fundamentally that the executive order is going to be legally challenged, not if even implemented, it will be legally challenged, not only by us, but by cities and states. We believe it will be effectively challenged. And I remind everyone that the previous scenario that was similar to challenge toward President Obama's executive action did, even though I disagreed with that challenge, it did succeed, and it did strike down the executive action. So that's really where that conversation should begin and end on the question of what the impact executive order is. On the question of how we make sense of quality of life offenses, and the example we've used, obviously, in this administration is ensuring that low-level marijuana possession did not lead to arrest. There's an ongoing effort, the commissioner can speak to it, to figure out the best way to go about addressing low-level offenses and quality of life offenses. Commissioner has clearly believed that's ideal to give our officers multiple tools in different situations. But we're going to make that decision based on public safety for New Yorkers, not something emanating from Washington, D.C.
I think this is just part and parcel of what we're doing with neighborhood policing. We talk about precision policing all the time, and giving our police officers, this is why this contract settlement is so important, because the different skills that you're using, and it's important that they exercise discretion. And we talk about quality of life. There's more than one way to do that. It doesn't always have to be some type of summary police action. It could be as little as a warning. So it's an important part of this whole contract settlement.
Does this contract address any kind of disciplinary or disclosure rules about officers who will face allegations of any kind of wrongdoing?
I'll turn to Bob, but I'll say I think we've made very clear that's a matter of state legislation. You have anything to add?
There are no additions in the contract.
Could you give us some specifics, either Bob or Pat, in terms of how long it's going to take new officers to reach maximum salary as part of the deal?
So it's still the same 5.5 years to reach basic maximum, but the salary is at a reduced level in the first steps of the schedule.
Let's speak about the 5-year outcome.
So the 5-year outcome, at the end of 5.5 years, the employees reach the same maximum as incumbents, which is $85,292, and on top of that, there would be the neighborhood policing differential of another 2.25%. And then when you add the other benefits that workers would receive in terms of night shift differential, uniform allowance, and other longevity, other types of additions, the employees, the city police officer at 5.5 years will reach over $100,000 in full benefits by the time you reach the implementation of this contract, which is during this year.
For the differential for the neighborhood policing, who gets that exactly? Is that the neighborhood coordination officers or anyone in the precinct, or how does that work?
Everyone in the unit will be eligible for it and will receive it.
So everyone in that precinct?
Everyone in the entire bargaining unit will receive the differential.
So in other words, it doesn't hinge on them actually being on
No,
patrol?
it's the nature that the whole operation is moving towards neighborhood policing. There's going to be a differential of 2.25% to all workers in the unit.
Yeah, and let me just amplify that. The entire patrol force will be moving towards neighborhood policing in different ways, and the entire patrol force will be moving to body cameras. That's the underlying predicate here, that we are acting on major paradigm shifts and compensating accordingly.
Question for you, Mr. Lynch. We've seen times of tension, sometimes quite visible tension between the city and the PBA over the years. Are those days over?
Look, I'll say it this way and then turn to Pat. And I've known Pat a long time, and yeah, we've had some times when we disagreed, and we've had some times when we agreed as well. We agreed on the window tint legislation in Albany recently. We agreed years ago and worked together trying to get the Bloomberg administration to release health information for officers who had suffered as a result of service at Ground Zero. It's never a simple picture. It needs to be looked at in all its fullness. So I would say this, after a lot of back and forth and certainly some real disagreement, we came to extraordinarily broad agreement, striking so many different issues and resolving so many outstanding issues. I think that's a very healthy thing. I think that's certainly going to improve communication. Sure, there'll be ups and downs along the way going forward, but I think this is something that is healthy for the city of New York, and certainly something we both care about deeply, sends a message of our respect for the rank and file and our appreciation for the work they do.
There's always a natural tension between management and the union and labor. It's our job to make sure we're standing up for our members. Sometimes we do that by agreeing, sometimes we disagree, sometimes we shake hands, sometimes we poke at each other. But the mission is to get to where police officers feel respected, they're treated as professionals, they're paid as professionals. That's what we've done today. So tomorrow, if there's an issue, we'll either discuss it or we'll fight about it. That's both of our jobs.
Yeah, Willie.
What happens now? The PBA was doing regular protests outside the mayor's gym and events that the mayor was at. Do those protests end now? And do you think that those were effective in reaching this agreement?
Well, we wanted to get the mayor and the staff to focus on our contract. I think it worked.
I would say I just thought he liked the coffee, and they all showed up for the coffee. No, we totally respect the right to protest. I'm always going to make the decision I think is right for the people in New York City. I pretty much at this point experience a protest every day on some topic or another. I'm not going to make a decision based on that, but I thoroughly respect the right of any union to make its views heard. That's their job.
Mr. Mayor, the overtime cap that was part of the 1,300 new officers deal initially announced at $454 million. Your press office tells me it was bumped up to in proportion to salary increases over the last year. Was that part of this negotiation? Is there a new overtime cap?
Dean Foulahan will explain that to you.
No, it is not. It was not part of the negotiations. The overtime cap we talked about only a week ago, and the numbers we gave you apply. As we make adjustments in that, we'll keep you informed of that.
So what is the overtime cap now?
We gave that to you a few days ago, and I'll give it to you after this.
We'll go over it again with you.
And is it in proportion to hours, or is it just...
Again, he's going to go over that with you. Let's talk about this agreement.
Mr. Mayor, you talk about the entire force going towards this neighborhood policing and this differential, just so we comprehend, will it be like a flat rate, or will it be more like Monday through Friday, a police officer works 2 days in the neighborhood policing, and he'll get compensated for that?
No, it's a great question. I'll start and... Yeah, absolutely, and Bob can add to it. So a couple things I want to say again and see if I can make it a little clearer. We believe when you compare this to certainly the history of this agency and other agencies, this is a paradigm shift. This is a moment of tremendous transformation within the NYPD. And the architect of that is Commissioner O'Neill. He is the person who took the regional concepts that Commissioner Bratton had been working on for years, brought them into this shape and form for New York City today, and personally supervised the creation of our neighborhood policing approach. That is meant to reach every precinct in a variety of ways over time. But it's about an approach to policing that has got to become pervasive. We never want to leave you with the misimpression it's some small cadre of elite officers. No, it has to become the mindset and the philosophy and the approach of the entire department. And that is such an important paradigm shift. It is certainly worth additional compensation. Equally, the decision to go to body cameras for the entire patrol force by the end of 2019 resolves and clarifies a path forward that I know New Yorkers all over the city were looking for answers on. I have heard this from so many of my constituents. They believe that body cameras would be good for everyone. I believe fundamentally they will be a positive addition to this city for our officers and our residents alike. Even though there's issues we have to work through, as with any new technology, it's going to be another transformation that I think will ultimately make us safer and fairer. That is now being applied on a very aggressive schedule. And it was important to have the buy-in of the union representing those officers and to resolve outstanding issues. And then finally, the last point is to say, again, look at the sheer totality of the issues covered. Contract issues that have been unresolved for 5 years, disability issue, naloxone issue, body camera issue, to have them all pulled together in one broad agreement really allows us to do a reset that we need to be able to effectively achieve this transformation. Yes?
Was this of additional importance to you, given the likelihood with Trump as president and some of the protests we've seen, that there'll be increased civil disobedience in the streets, and that from your perspective, it's probably a good idea to be on the same page with the rank and file police officer?
A very fair question, but I'll tell you that was not in the front of my mind. I do want to say, I want to take this opportunity to say what I said on Sunday at Battery Park. And I had heard, and I want to say this to Pat and all of his fellow leaders, I had heard so many spontaneous compliments and so much appreciation and respect for our officers for the way they have handled, obviously, a series of unexpected and incredibly large protests. The 400,000 people 10 days ago was one of the biggest demonstrations we've seen in the city in many years. Our officers handled those demonstrations with tremendous professionalism. The protesters were also, I'm sure, with a few exceptions, but overwhelmingly were respectful and appreciative to our police, which is what all protesters should be. And I heard so many people say that they believed it was one of New York City's finest hours to see how the police facilitated in such a professional manner those protests. I said that at the Battery Park rally, and I was so pleased that the 10,000 people there cheered for the NYPD officers in unison. So that issue of what might happen in this moment historically, yes, I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of protests for a long time here and all over the city, all over the country, as we're seeing. But I already knew that our officers would handle those effectively and with absolute respect for the protest. I've seen that for years and years and years. I think it's much more important as a way of solidifying and speeding the transformation that we're talking about with neighborhood policing. That's the most important imperative here. Who has not gotten one yet? Anna?
Is there a differential for wearing the body cameras?
Again, you're going to get a fact sheet momentarily that's going to lay out all of the elements, where the savings were achieved, where the city's making contributions, how it plays out over years. You'll see that shortly.
I don't understand. Why won't you answer that?
Because the facts are about to be provided you on paper, which will be giving you a much clearer answer than I could. I want you to see it. Yeah, all of the details will be laid out. Go ahead.
Pat, you had very recently sent a letter to your rank and file telling them that mediation had failed to produce a settlement, that you were going to be moving for interest arbitration. What happened? Was it a question of a single detail changing in the negotiations, or was there something else that brought you together?
No, it's just a willingness to continue talking. Even though you're going to the mediation process, and even if you file to go to the PERB arbitration process, anytime in that process, you're going to have a conversation. In this case, the conversations started. We went through the night, and it came to a result that works for us, recognizes New York City police officers, puts extra money into their pocket. So it's all about getting to a resolve, not where you get it done. We were able to get this done at the table. We've gone to arbitration other times, but we had the conversation. We resolved problems on both sides, and our members will be able to pay their bills.
Mr. Mayor, and others. Is neighborhood policing so onerous and so difficult that it merits an increase in pay to implement a new strategy? And is that smart bargaining to say for implementing this one way in which we want you to now do things, we're going to add this amount to your...
Again, I'm going to put it in broader perspective, and Bob can speak as well. I know you guys, if you listen to the theory of how we approach this, you can see this. There were a lot of moving parts, and our goal was to address, ideally, all of them. There were many times, as Pat just said, where that did not look possible. But the ideal was try and address all these outstanding issues simultaneously. We also looked at the fullness of all that was being asked of our officers, and new challenges. And there's no question, for example, neighborhood policing comes with a whole host of additional responsibilities, and body cameras, of course, is clearly a very different reality for officers. I think the way to explain it that is fair and consistent is to say you factor in those realities with everything else you're trying to achieve. And we thought there was a legitimate argument that those came with additional needs. But we also thought these other issues had to be resolved. And if putting everything together was the way to get it done, while being consistent with our obligation to the taxpayers, then that made sense. In fact, I think it would have been irresponsible not to strike that kind of agreement.
Let me just say this. I think there's often a mistaken focus on an element of a collective bargaining agreement as opposed to the totality of the agreement. So one might say, well, what is the role of a differential for neighborhood policing, and not say, well, what is the rest of the settlement? And yes, the neighborhood policing differential applies to all 23,000 police officers, and that has a cost. And that then is part of an overall package that includes, as I mentioned earlier, savings from new hires that's about equivalent to that amount. So you can't look at a piece alone, and you shouldn't just look at those two pieces, because there are other elements also, and I think we'll talk about it afterwards, but all those elements make a labor agreement. This was an extraordinarily powerful agreement because, as the mayor said, it solved so many problems. As Pat said, it solved the problems of his members in across-the-board ways, and when you look at the totality of those elements together, you have a package that is consistent with our collective bargaining, and that's what makes it really such a challenge and something so important for the city.
Last two questions.
Okay, who has not had a chance? Mara.
Yeah, will the officers have to make added pension payments, like at the FDNY?
No. The pensions are set by state law, and there's no new contribution for the general across the board. There are, and from the disability benefit, there will be an employee contribution of 1% as part of the new disability benefit that we will jointly support legislation to have that approved in Albany.
Okay. Last call. Anyone who did not get a question? Anyone? Okay. Ozzie, you're the final word.
For Pat Lynch, you've often spoken about the need to expand the number of officers hired, and neighborhood policing is not expanded throughout the city just yet. Do you feel, in your opinion, that there are enough officers currently on the force to implement neighborhood policing citywide?
We need higher staffing, and I agree that we need more police officers doing all of it. But the community policing aspect is about every police officer. It's about a mindset of police officers in doing it, quite frankly, old school, where you look at a problem and you solve that problem differently, whether it's speaking to someone, it's warning and admonish, or possibly summoning or arresting them. It's about a whole mindset of policing. We put that together, and of course, we always want more members. Every neighborhood, including my neighborhood, wants more police officers. This helps us get there. The salary will help us attract and recruit qualified candidates and hopefully stop those police officers that are thinking about leaving. They'll look at the salary structure now and possibly stay.
Thank you, everyone.